and I will hand over to Di. So Di, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you to everybody who's here this evening. It's fantastic turnout for what I hope you will find a fascinating subject. Um, I've been talking to people about circular economies for a while recently, and it's amazing just how many people are really cottoning on now to what we're talking about. Although to begin with, you get quite a lot of people scratching their heads and saying, "What's a circular economy?" So anyway, welcome to everybody that's logged in this evening. It's my great pleasure to introduce a internationally renowned speaker and author in Sue Jefferson, who is, for the purposes of this talk, she talks on lots of subjects, but the purposes of this one, it's about her bid, on our bid as a group, to make Malton Norton into the first circular economy market town in the UK. So without any further ado, very welcome, Sue, and I will hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Di, and everybody. And I'm just going to share my screen first, then I know, because I cannot multitask. So when that's come out, it should be nice, lots of colours and not what looks out the window at the moment in terms of rain and so on. Can I just have a kind of a thumbs up or anything that people can hear me and see the screen? See something interesting? That will do. I've seen Jeff doing that. That will do. Thank you. Yes, and just to share why, or my involvement in this, I've lived in Malton for I think about 23 years now. I worked in Scarborough, and 5 years ago, when I set up my own business, one of the things I did was get involved with the York and North Yorkshire Local Enterprise Partnership, which I'd never heard of before then, but they're a really good resource to share things that can help business or help be the link between private and public bodies, and they are also the voice to central government as to what's needed locally, and they really are trying to drive kind of economic growth and support and skills and infrastructure sort of locally. So that's kind of the role they play, and I sit as a non-executive director. And one of the things they asked me to chair was their plans for a circular economy, which I'd never heard of. And so I'm sharing with you my interpretation of it, but actually the big discussion was around how do we make this relevant for people, and trying to make Yorkshire circular I felt was just too big a task. So we talked about, let's start with a market town and sort of have lots of market towns getting involved in circular, because that's actually good for the local communities as well. And I have a feeling that because I control the screen, do I have to admit people as well? So I'm just trying to make
No, we can do that.
Oh,
So
good,
don't
good.
worry
That's
about
all right
that.
then.
Yeah.
Good. I won't worry about that then. Good. So I'm going to talk to you about what it is, but actually more important, how we're approaching it and what's going on. And this is probably going to be about 20-30 minutes. There's but please do, ask questions or sort of put your questions in the chat box as we go along. We'll definitely capture those at the end. But what I wanted to ask people first, maybe in the chat box, is just tell me if you're here as a resident, just interested in it, or if you're here with a business hat on and interested what it means for business, just because that will be helpful to know as well. So I'll let you do that as I start. And whilst you're doing that, say this came about because of the LEP's vision for 2030, which was to be a region that is absolutely thriving as a competitive and carbon neutral circular economy that's seeing the benefits for businesses and business growth and jobs, but for society as well as for the environment. And that's very much where this idea comes from. And you can go and look on the LEP's. They've got a good website called Circular Yorkshire, and there's lots of things going on there if you want to sort of get involved. So as I say, out of this came, let's look to see if we can make a market town circular. So, and I'm going to sort of share with you what is a circular economy, but I think there was about 10 of us. went to a Circular Yorkshire event, and we went really as strangers and thought, who's interested in this idea, and sat down at the same table. And for the past 18 months, we've been kind of developing a plan and implementing a plan. But we came as strangers with all sorts of different skills and interests, but shared a common excitement about what was possible. And so our vision was that our towns are successful, they're appealing to residents, to businesses, to visitors, and we've actually created something that's happy and healthy as a place to live and work. And our mission is very much one of kind of start the legacy. We're not going to be the ones who see everything come to fruition, but if we can create a legacy that continues, and very much it becomes a culture of collaboration, that's really the key to making circularity work, is people working together. And we gave ourselves sort of 4 aims to start with. One was that let's have everybody go from 0 to everyone being aware of circular Malton in 6 months. And I know at the end you're going to ask me that, and I'll tell you where we are on that when we talk later. But what we also wanted to do is say everybody being able to play their part, whatever the scale. Many of you might be really working so hard to do everything that really makes a difference for the environment, but you might be like me, who just struggles to find the time, and we'll talk about some of the barriers and so on, or the effort to do it. And we don't want people to be put off and say just a small difference, use a single-use plastic bottle once less often than you did, and you're playing your part. So have everybody playing their part. And ultimately, we want to be a really resource efficient town where nothing that we consider a value is lost. And as Di said, we're actually a pilot for the UK to show how this approach can work. So one of the things we do is we're producing a model and a guide, and we already have other towns talking to us about how to do what we're doing. So that's our goal. And it's because there's so many benefits to a circular economy. You'll see I place quite a lot of emphasis on businesses because we've got to drive business change, and then from that will flow a lot of other things. But this was set up before the COVID impact, but actually it's never more important to look at new jobs or high valued skills for people, cheaper energy, as well as reduced carbons and so on. The benefits are quite varied. And if I'm to highlight what is circular economy, it's really not letting things go to waste primarily, and treating the resources that we have as valuable and keeping them in use. And you could do that by simply recycling, but that's really at the end of the line. If we could reuse things, if we could create more value from things, so one person's waste is someone else's raw material ingredient, and we can also do that by how we design processes, how we maintain things, and design from the start. There's so many aspects to it, but in simple terms, it's keep things in life for as long as possible, because our resources are finite, as we know. So our approach to this is quite simple. We're not here to do and deliver a lot of initiatives ourselves. Our role is really to drive awareness and education about what's possible, and get people excited and wanting to be involved in things. So we're starting with kind of ideas that are there to kind of create the conversations with people, to be visible, sometimes to be controversial, because that's what will engage the masses and the media, so that we can have the conversation. So that's our primary role. And it goes through from education in schools right through to in adults and businesses and so on, and policymakers. And the second part of our plan is to engage people. There's so many different stakeholders, those who can make things happen, those who can stop things happening, those who can actually drive their business growth from it and create jobs from it. There's lots of experts, and what we've discovered, there's actually lots of experts in York and the Yorkshire area, world leading experts. Biorenewables Development Centre are based in Dunnington and are world leaders in some of the work they're doing extracting value from waste. The university has high sort of skills, and again is on the world stage for a number of things. Fairer Science down the road, so they're on our doorstep. And that's the good thing, is we don't have to be experts as long as we can call on them, and we can actually give our people access to them as we wish. And of course residents, so that it's something that everybody wants to be part of and wants to help make happen. And once we've done the engagement, it's then really fueling everybody else's initiatives, everything that Ryedale Environment Group is doing, everything that each shop is doing, Environmental Smart, you'll see there's so many. It's just, can we help drive awareness, drive connections, so they have even more success? And then we'll be in a communication route. And I'll talk more about how that's going later on. And this is to say, look, you know, we've actually uncovered there's so much good stuff already happening, and that's part of what we're here to do, is to help drive awareness of it. But this, I keep updating this because more keeps coming on board, and you probably can tell me there's more things going on as well. But we've got businesses that are successful, and they have kind of sustainability credentials as part of their values. You know, Cozy Cottage Soap, you'll know, who don't use plastic at all, don't use anything that's got palm oil in it, and so on. And in fact, Clara is now using I think is it oranges, that I've just heard about, some waste oranges coming from somewhere that she's then using to be one of the essential oils, and so on. We've seen Scoops and Beecham Way sort of grow even during the lockdown, because they're offering something that actually was very convenient and suitable for whilst we were in lockdown, but actually has tapped into something that's very appropriate now when people don't want to have lots of excess packaging and so on. The Visit Malton, I don't know if you know that the events, the big summer food festivals, they've been actively trying to reduce their waste. So 2 years ago they had 20 tons of waste. Last year they had 4 tons of waste, and their goal is to have no waste in the next year. One final one that I'd share is Ellis Patents. They're based in Rillington, and they're world leaders in an engineering field they're in. And they have everything. They have no plastic waste. They use electric powered vehicles where they can. And the managing director there said he can now see how he can turn that into a competitive advantage. And he's actually just won an international contract based on being able to demonstrate the circular economy they're running. So it really works for business as well as for the public. I can't see chat, so I'm just going to keep going unless Di tells me to pause at this. And I think what's really important is this is been put in place to try and drive the change in behaviour, but it's really important we understand not just with the circular economy, but actually when we're trying to drive environmental change, what gets in the way. And you know, if you're like me, there's so many things you think it's just so obvious. So what's stopping us? What's stopping everybody recycling everything that they should? What's stopping everyone switch over to an electric vehicle, for example? And of course, there are really practical reasons for it. And it's most important that we understand that, because if we can understand the resistance to the change, that's what we can then look to overcome. And it stems from things like, you know, the risk, the cost of doing something, the risk if it's not right. You know, I've given you an example of an electric car at one hand, but what about using the, you know, Ecover washing powder? what if it doesn't get your clothes as clean as the other one does? You know, that is a risk, because it could end up being a waste of money if it doesn't work, or someone complains, or you just don't feel that you've, you know, done a good enough cleaning job. Although if you see the stains on my family's clothes, you know, I'm past caring. So it could be the risk. Another challenge is the reward is always further down the line and less visible, but the effort and the inconvenience is now. And that's a very real reason why change doesn't happen. It doesn't happen when we're trying to get people to change smoking, or even to lose weight. I know there's is because I have to go without now, but you know, I'll only see it on the scales or see it in the mirror down the line. So effort versus reward, and that time delay is an important one. And as I said earlier, a lot of people tell me, well, I would, but I don't think just my efforts will make a difference. And that really is a mindset we have to change, which I'll show you one example in a moment about a small action can make a big difference. And then we have other things which, in terms of, it's not a priority for a lot of people. We need to find funds to make some things happen, even to be a catalyst. And as a team, we're working on in Circular Malton Norton, we all have day jobs. So we're doing this as volunteers, and trying to fit that in is quite a challenge, particularly if we then get some funding, because we have to make sure the governance and the, you know, we're looking after that money and reporting properly, and projects have to be managed. So those are our barriers. But there's lots happening already. Some of you may have seen some of this. We had the big road signs to actually tell people that we are on our way creating the first sort of circular market town. We've got fantastic coverage in the local paper and in Yorkshire Post, and Di's been fantastic to help make that happen. Thank you. Ryedale Council invited us to their My Carbon Footprint event, so we could actually start to talk to people about ideas and get their feedback. So we started the dialogue, which is good, because that then encourages people to tell us their views, you know, good or bad. And then we've started the first of our big initiatives, and I've said this is to create the dialogue, to engage businesses, to engage the public. And you may have heard about this, but our goal is, could we see a future where there's zero food waste coming from what's perceived to be Yorkshire's food capital? And can we do that through an anaerobic digester for the community? So if we took waste from the farms, food waste that our, you know, cafes have, our food shops have, put it into a local anaerobic digester and let it in turn create heat or electricity for our town. That could be for residents and getting cheaper electricity. It could be into our public buildings, could be for businesses. Or it could go on to another stage and actually go into the gas grid and be fueling our waste trucks or Yorkshire Coastliner, etc. And the digestate going back to farms and our allotments for a higher quality fertiliser. So that's a project that we're assessing the feasibility of that now. We've got funding from the Rural Community Energy Fund, and we've been able to engage local businesses to actually run this for us. And it's a feasibility, so there's no sort of fixed decision one way or the other. We're asking the people who could provide the waste, we're asking residents their views, we're asking businesses their views, and then we'll be producing a report where we'll be doing a Facebook Live to share the findings shortly. Some of you are, I'm going to come and ask you if you filled in a survey yet, otherwise I'm going to ask you to do that. But I don't know about you, you know, what is an anaerobic digester? How does that work? And what's it mean for us? And the company involved were able to explain it to us in terms of the life of a sausage roll. So just for the waste that would come from making the pork filling of a sausage roll could create enough heat to heat a house for 2 minutes, or to power a laptop for over half an hour. And that's just one sausage roll. And that's if there was no waste coming from it, of half-eaten ones and so on. So that just shows you the power of what food waste can create. And we also thought it's important that this has got to be inedible waste, because we've got a great thing with Ryedale free fridge and Too Good to Go, which uses up, you know, good quality food that's quite edible at the end of the day, and we don't want to see an anaerobic digester compete with that. So this is waste once that all is used up, or a half-eaten sausage roll is left. So I mentioned that we're trying to, well, we want as many views as possible from businesses and residents. And this can be from Malton and Norton and anywhere in a 10-mile radius. So if you haven't already had a go at completing the survey, please would you? And I was going to ask the Di or Paul to just put these links into the chat box so you can easily access them, because it'll be fantastic, because we want to make sure we're representing the views. We want to make sure we've got the concerns captured, and that will determine if we go forward to the next stage to develop it or not. I'll just pause there for a moment in case there's any questions. There's a lot in the chat box, but any questions coming up on that topic?
We've got a question coming through from Caroline about the emissions from an anaerobic digester.
Good. Is it, what are the emissions?
Yes, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, well, the good news, well, the short answer is I don't know, but I will, that will be coming through as part of the report from the experts. There's obviously, the first part of how the AD works is it's an enclosed container where the kind of the microbes attack the food waste, but in a contained way, and that creates methane and carbon dioxide, but that's contained, and then the methane is what gets put, as I understand it, into the heat, either into a heat crater or fed into the electricity grid. I have got a paper on the science of it, but I haven't got it to hand at the moment. But that's one of the things I know we're going to be asking specifically is, what are the emissions? What emissions do we save versus going to landfill or going on long journeys to other AD sites? And then, but what still exists? Okay, so sorry I can't answer that fully, Caroline, but I'll make sure you get note of when we do have the final report. Okay.
Yeah, and just to say thank you, Kate, for your comments. I think Sue has answered that about we have 2 free fridges in one in Malton and one in Norton, and they do pick up a lot of the waste usable food and redistribute it. So but yes, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, no, we definitely won't be looking to take that, because that's got such a valuable role to play. This is another idea that is just coming into the towns now and is not dissimilar to the free fridge setup, but it's called Too Good to Go. It's an international movement, in fact, and it's been in large cities for quite a while, but it's just starting to roll out, and is again choosing Yorkshire to be the first region to really roll out. And it's a similar thing, which not wanting anything to go to waste. And in this case, if a business has some waste, excess surplus product, it can choose to put about £9 or £10 worth into what they call a magic bag. And then consumers who have the app will get notified that in their area there are magic bags available, and they can go and purchase them for £3. So you purchase the food for a third of the price. Well, you don't know what you're going to get, but it can be all sorts of things. I think this shows you. So you have it on your phone as an app. So you pick the stores that you're interested in, and then you say when you're going to go and purchase it and so on. But what's interesting in this is, With businesses, it tends to benefit them because people come to their stores that they may not otherwise come to, or to their cafes. But this is what's in it for the environment. So for every magic bag, if it's rescued, you know, every day for a year, for example, that's the equivalent of reducing the carbon dioxide that would be created from taking a car from Land's End to John O'Groats and back. So my point about small things can make a big difference is if people sign up to, you know, the Too Good To Go bag, or going to the free fridges, because that would be a similar equivalent, I would imagine. Look at the amount of carbon dioxide that can be saved, and that's not an inconvenience or a risk, you know. So that's how we're trying to help people see there's easy ways to go about this.
One thing I've noticed is very interesting, Sue, is that I did download the app on my phone just to see how it was working.
Yeah.
And whenever I've been on it, it says that there is no food available in Malton. So I think that's testament to what a good job the food fridges are doing in our area.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I found the same thing. I think we've got about 4 places at the moment, a couple of cafes, a couple of shops who've got waste signed up to it. But yes, yeah, it looks good. And I think Morrison's a part of it as well. Okay, so I'm talking a bit more about waste and for businesses. So McCain, with their potato waste at the end of the day, they worked with the BDC, who I mentioned in Dunnington, to a company who was looking for such sort of waste. And that company is called Chips Board, ironically, but they turn that waste into clothing and into furniture. And they're currently based in London, but looking to relocate to Yorkshire so they can be close to their source of raw material. And that's showing you the circular economy in action. Someone's waste is someone else's raw material, and it can create jobs and businesses and attract people to the region. That's the benefit of us leading the way with this. But it's more than waste. Businesses can save energy costs, they can improve productivity, they can look at packaging again. I get a lot of businesses telling me how much cardboard they find is going to waste, and surely there's a better use for it. So there's lots of case studies for businesses and what they can do. And we're keen to help businesses really step change and not see this as a nice to do, but something that can actually help them through recovery, save money or make money, add value to ideas. And there's lots of support around. Rebiz is a support for businesses, and you can look at consultancy support. They can audit your business to help, and if you just Google Rebiz, it will come up, and it's linked to the Leeds LEP, and you can contact them for advice. Spark Fund gives businesses sort of 50% of funding just to come up with something new to their business. And we're running a webinar later in the year, which will have lots of our local businesses sharing their stories about what they've put in place and what benefit it's brought them, and their tips for other businesses. And we've actually just been notified that we've got some funding support and put in place workshops that will be free to businesses. It was going to be for Malton and Norton, but we've extended it to the total business population in Ryedale, who can join an online workshop, and it will cover all these sort of areas that I've mentioned, including getting started. And again, if either anyone on the call is a business or you know someone who has a business, please do ask them to register to get involved with this. There's only 20 places, and we've got a lot more than 20 businesses in the area, and I'd really like, again, our local businesses to get on this and get ahead and really see the benefit of this coming through. And I think, again, Paul or Di might put that into the chat box so you can easily get to the link, because they're running, as you can see, early November. And this is one of the tools that company is going to be sharing, which I think is great. People can put in some quite straightforward data, and they will help you produce a carbon footprint for your business or organization. And at a glance, you can see where are most emissions coming from. Is it from, you know, running an office? Is it transport? Is it waste? Is it production, etc.? So a business can see where it needs to focus for the best impact on carbon and probably money. And that's going to be then shared with all, and then a company can keep on track of that and see how they're improving. So I'm coming near the end now, but just to share with you kind of for us what's working and what we've learnt as we've gone along. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the team. I think some are on this call now, but as I say, we came together as strangers with a blank sheet of paper, but we kind of share a common ambition to see this happen. We all are impatient to see it happen fast. We've got a really diverse degree of skills, which we're all leveraging to their best use. And we're just very action driven. We don't talk much, we just get out and do. In fact, sometimes I realize we're only talking telepathically, and a bit more of communication is coming from me might be helpful, but things are moving so fast. The approach we've taken has been very helpful. You know, the big idea is creating the dialogue. We've been delighted how engaged everyone's been of stakeholders. Everybody has wanted to be part of something like this that's exciting and just putting us on the map and going to benefit our people. And I say we don't have to be experts because the solutions exist elsewhere. Fantastic case studies, experts all around, and lots of good practices already happening. So that's what's working. And any village or town, absolutely take this model and create your own circular place to be, is what I'd recommend. I thought I would let you just read this page, which is some of the feedback we've had from residents and businesses. The green on the left-hand side is talking about the circular economy. The orange is about the anaerobic digester that I've mentioned. And the ones in red show you there are concerns that we've got to make sure we overcome in any plan that we have. So I'll let you have a read of that for a moment before I kind of finish up with a couple of final slides. I wish I had music whilst this was on, but never mind.
While people are reading, Sue,
Yep.
just to notify of a question that was actually way back right at the start of what you're saying, so you've got time to think about it.
Yep.
There's a question about the link between circular economies and donut economies, and whether they are related. So perhaps that's something you can address at the end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just give you another moment to read that whilst I look at my book about donut economics. You won't get the answer. I'll come on to that one at the end. Okay. So I must admit, you know, we didn't know what to expect, but I was just delighted to see kind of how up for it people in our town were for this idea. I think I'm probably one of many who's seen fantastic collaboration and agility from our community and sort of smaller independent family businesses during this really kind of tough 6 months. And I think that's really a catalyst for us and saying we'd like more of that, and this is how we can almost go back to how it used to be with collaboration and sharing and working together. And again, the response to the anaerobic digester is, okay, as long as you overcome the concerns we might have, and as a community ADE rather than a big industrial you know, AD, you know, that's exactly the plan. If it doesn't work for the community, then, you know, there's no point us having it. So those concerns will be addressed. So the final couple of slides was just to tell you what's coming up now. So we're waiting to just gather all the residential feedback and the business feedback, which we're going to look at next week. I'm really hoping business steps forward to take advantage of the consultancy and workshops that's going to be around and get ahead, because I think that's going to really be very helpful and useful with Ryedale. And then we've got a number of initiatives that will be going live. So the business workshop I mentioned, whatever the result of the feasibility study for anaerobic digester is and the next steps. And I'm just going to come on to what we're going to do with schools. We're looking to get further funding, not just for communication and measuring the impact, but actually now there's so much momentum. I think we've actually got sufficient tasks for jobs for people, so I'm looking to get funding to actually pay for, give people paid jobs to do this, because I think some of us as volunteers, we know we haven't got the time, and I think it would be fantastic if we could kind of hand the baton on as well. So we're looking to get money to pay for jobs to do this. We've got the model of what we're doing that's about to be shared around the rest of the UK, and team are going to be meeting at the end of November as we look to 2021 and what ideas we've got, what investments and so on. And we're also looking at an idea, just going to share with you two things that are coming up on the horizon about an incubator hub. But schools, just to mention, school leaders are so engaged, not just themselves, but with their students as well, as you can imagine with the younger generation. And they are up for becoming carbon neutral schools. We've got a sports centre as well. So we know how to do it. We're now just in the stages of looking at the best financial models to do that. But I've got the whole of North Yorkshire County Council talking about Malton schools and becoming carbon neutral. And again, let's be a beacon for that and have our children really proud and excited about what they can do. And I mentioned an incubator hub. I think there will be lots of people who are developing ideas for net zero in their garage or bedroom. It might be a product, it might be a technology, or it might be a service. And what if we could help them succeed by taking that idea and giving them all the support that often hinders entrepreneurs being successful? So we've got the concept, which came from a team meeting suggested by one of the team, of an incubator hub to do just that. And I just want you to imagine the possibility that we have a circular sort of net zero incubator hub in Malton that is carbon neutral, made from all the sustainable materials, and it services those entrepreneurs for tomorrow that are going to drive our future. And we help them succeed, and they in turn go on to build businesses and jobs in our local area. We've got institutional investors interested, we've got developers interested, landowners interested. So if anyone either has or knows someone who's got an idea and likes the sound of becoming a tenant in such a place, please do email us, because we want to make sure we shape the incubator hub for those entrepreneurs, maybe just looking for the opportunity. But this is all kind of on our horizon now. So I just want to say thank you for listening, and I hope I've given you ideas to create yourself or to get involved and help share the kind of the vision as to what we want to be. So I will hand back now to Paul and Di, and I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Sue. That I just hope other people on the call is excited about all this, as I think Sue and self and other people on the project team are. I think it's just fantastic to see Malton Norton leading the way in this way, and all power to everybody's elbow that's involved in this project, because I do really think it's very exciting, and it's great. We all love Malton being the food capital of Yorkshire, but wouldn't it be great for it to be the circular capital of Yorkshire as well? So thank you, Sue, and I hope that's given people lots of food for thought. Do we have a few questions? We haven't got an awful lot of time, I have to say, because we have another session at 8. But if anybody's got a couple of quick questions, I'm sure Sue will be happy to. There was the one about the donut economy, Sue, if you want to take that one first.
And what I was going to say was, if anyone has a question that can't be answered here, if you email circularmaltonnorton@gmail.com, we'll get to them all and answer individually. So please do that. So the donut one is, again, all my answers are like short and I don't know. There's similarities, there are some differences. And if Steve Mason has asked that, that's because he's testing if I've read the book yet. It's like,
no, it's not Steve, but the man who has knows Steve.
So I must admit, I don't know how connected they are, but they're both in the same spirit of what we're trying to do, which is that interdependence. It's not money at all costs. It's not drive to the lowest cost, whatever the circumstances. The 6 capitals, which are the measure for circular economies, are financial ones, but manufactured ones, and the sustainability of materials. It's the natural ones of those materials staying, and the environmental impact. And then there's social ones about people's well-being and health, and collaboration, etc. So those are at least 5 more measures than a pure financial one. And there's quite a lot of work going on into measuring those. So it's a half answer.
Great, thank you, Sue. I think there's another question just come in now, from Susan. How did you get started? How did your volunteers meet and realise that you had a shared vision and a passion for all this?
Yep, so we went to a local enterprise partnership workshop on circular Yorkshire, and they will hold them. I will, I don't think I can put the link on here, but if you put circular Yorkshire again into Google, you should get through to a link, and there are Circular Yorkshire week is coming up, I think next week. So there's going to be lots of activities and so on. And I'd say just get involved, a bit like Ryedale Environment Group Week. Lots of things going on. And there's lots of interest from schools and education, housing, transport, and the circular town bit. So that's how we started, and there will be more. But also just start your own, see if you can get people interested in a village or a town, and start.
Brilliant, thank you. As we take one last one, which is a sort of question, but also a comment from Kate. I'm wondering how a sustainable housing development may fit within your plans. Should any more housing developments actually go ahead in either town?
Really good question. For me, that's the golden the goal, because it is within our gift to an extent, and that's why collaboration with councils and planning authorities is so important. And all of the councils signed up to going carbon negative, and the LEP is working with each council on their climate action plan, including what is going to be their strategy for housing. There are some barriers, which tend to be the developers saying we haven't got the skills, but all those can be overcome. So there's a whole action plan and strategy to change that. But just back to the AD project that I mentioned, one of the ideas is, depending where it might get located, and it's likely to be, it's going to be on an outskirts, on an industrial site or whatever. But if it can be linked with any housing developments, then at the time it could provide all the heating for that housing development. And what I'm hoping is we could encourage the council to say this housing development must be as carbon neutral as it could be. Let it showcase for the whole of Yorkshire or the whole of the UK. So that's kind of our influencing that's going to be taking place, and help them find a way. But it is the holy grail, but it can be done. It's changing minds and behaviours. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
Brilliant
Sorry.
for sending those links as well.
Yeah. I think we'll probably have to call it a day there, because we have got another session coming up to take. But I think a few people have put in the chat box, it'd be great to see Malton Norton put in on the map and leading the way in all these things, which is what I was saying as well. I think, you know, it's just fantastic. All this work is going on, and the more we can share that message and get people involved, the better, really. So thank you very much, Sue. I'm just going to mention a few more things that are coming up in Ryedale Environment Week. Obviously, it's been great so far, but there's a lot more to come. So following on from this session at 8, there's one on electric vehicles. There's a panel of local electric vehicle owners who are going to answer questions and talk about their enthusiasm for electric vehicles. Going back to doing one thing and getting involved and having one thing that you could do. Tomorrow night, there's a session from North Yorkshire Otters. Everything you'd ever want to know about making compost. So that is something that people could do to make a difference. And then one other one that I wanted to highlight, on Thursday, we have John Law, who is the recently appointed Climate Change and Environment Projects Officer at Ryedale District Council. And he wants to hear from you and as many people as we can get on that call about what you feel Ryedale District Council's priority should be in tackling climate change in Ryedale. So again, I think that's a key one for us all this week, and I hope as many people as possible will join that. So can I just say thank you so much to people for joining us this evening. Those of you who are going to hang around for the electric vehicle ones, that's great. Another exciting session to come, but thank you very much to everybody. I hope you've enjoyed Sue's presentation as much as I have, and I'm sure you all have as well. Fascinating and exciting times ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being